Hello and welcome to ZEE Companion Insight, live from our studios in London with me, Chetan Pathak. Our chance to talk about some of the news stories making headlines in here, in India and Pakistan and around the world. Today, we're going to be spending much of this show talking about bullying, and it's in regards to National Anti-Bullying Week that we just passed last week, but we thought it was a good opportunity for us to talk about it now. And in relation to headlines that you may well have seen, this from The Independent saying that head teachers blame funding cuts as fewer children say schools deal with bullying effectively. Analysis in the crime survey for England and Wales, data that was released by the government to coincide with Anti-Bullying Week, found that 72% of pupils aged 10 to 15 felt their school dealt with bullying very well or quite well in the last year, but that's down from 78% in 2014. The figures show that a higher proportion of pupils said all of the bullying they experienced took place at school, which is up from 53% in 2014. And one school pupil in every classroom is bullied every single day. That is what that same survey found. To make sense of some of those headlines and to talk about his own experiences, I'm joined on Insight tonight by Jag Singh, who's a motivational speaker. Jag, thank you for joining us. I know you've seen those headlines too. We'll talk about your own story. You've spoken about it publicly in the past, about the bullying that you went through as a child in East London in the 1970s. But first, what do you make of those headlines? Does it surprise you or not?
Well, to tell you the truth, Chetan, there is always room for improvement, okay? Because bullying is an ongoing thing, okay? It doesn't stop, okay? It's always going to be there. Everybody who goes to school, will experience some sort of bullying. Now, this sometimes means that the teachers have to take action, constant action. Okay, not just an action when they know, okay, there's an issue, we need to sort it out. They need to keep reminding the children, keep reminding them the aspects of anti-bullying, and it needs to be an ongoing thing. And I don't think it is done enough in schools. And to tell you the truth, I think you could say it's budgets and whatsoever, but I still think the teachers need to pay a bit more attention, more plans should be put in place to make it happen.
Paul Whiteman's the General Secretary of the School Leaders Union, the NAHT. He said the government's cuts to school budgets are bad news for children who are being bullied. He said school staff are the first line of defence against bullying and they're the best way of making sure it doesn't happen in the first place. He said they're reducing numbers of classroom staff, like teaching assistants, pastoral staff. He said he'd play a vital role in behaviour. Let's talk a bit about your experiences. I know you've spoken about it too. You grew up in East London in the 1970s. What did you experience? I know you were one of the very few Asians, if not the only Asian in your school, along with your brother. What sort of stuff did you go through as a child?
Well, at that time in the 70s, me and brother, like you just said there, were the only ethnics in the whole school. It was a white-dominated school.
This is Canning Town in East London.
Canning Town in East London, yeah. And what happened there was that we were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay, we were in a school where we were growing up as Sikhs. We were in hair plaits, and the children and the teachers around us and the public didn't recognise who we were. That we were grown Sikhs, and this obviously opened up a big domain for abuse. Because obviously if someone's not the same as others, you're going to get some sort of abuse, and that's what we encountered. And we didn't only encounter it on a now and again basis. It was ongoing, constantly. We've been bullied, chased home. We had teachers who were rude to us. And, it just became something which we became immune to. And I'll tell you one thing, Chetan, I just wished I could see one anti-bullying poster at that time. Because at that time, I didn't know such words existed, such as diversity, equality. All I thought to myself was, wait a minute, it's the way things are.
Did you speak to anybody about it? Because what was interesting from this survey too was that they found that people that were non-white, children that were non-white, were less likely to have reported bullying. One reading of that could have been that there were fewer ethnic minority pupils that were experiencing bullying. That seems unlikely. It seemed more likely that it was perhaps black Asian pupils are less likely to talk about it. I have to say this was just from this survey. That's not a conclusive study or conclusive data, but it's hypothesizing around those findings. For you, did you mention it to anyone? Did you speak to your parents? Were you able to find a teacher to talk to, another adult?
Well, we spoke. We spoke to the teachers. We said to them we were getting bullied, and it got worse. Every time we spoke about anyone bullying us, the teacher spoke to them, and it got worse. And the majority of the teachers ignored us because there was no aspect. It was like, well, no, bullying? What's bullying? We don't understand it. The teachers could not see it from our point of view. Only we realised what was happening to us. And eventually what happened was even some of the teachers with the comments they should say to us and speak to us, like, you know, like, you're not a member of this country, you belong somewhere else. And that was the teachers. And so what hope did we have to ask these same teachers for support?
And we're talking, of course, about the 1970s. We have, thankfully, as a society, moved on significantly.
Yes.
A teacher would be sacked now. I think we can agree if they ever came out with something as outrageous as that. And schools have really taken on a much stronger policy about bullying. I think almost all schools now have strong policies in place to deal with it. Of course, doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but certainly there's a strong infrastructure around tackling bullying. I know you now use your experiences and go into schools as part of work with the NSPCC. We've obviously significantly moved on from the 70s. What sort of stuff do you talk to pupils about when you go in now to talk about bullying?
We'll talk about a wide range of things, from child protection, how to keep safe, how to speak out. Okay, now that's the thing. Speaking out is so important, because although I tried to speak to the teachers, tried to speak to my parents, and they did what they could to help us, but the objective of destroying, how you're going to get rid of, stop being bullied, is by keep speaking out. And that's the message I send out to the children. If it's one person, you speak to someone, it doesn't stop, don't stop there. Don't give up, because I believe strongly in my heart that no one deserves to be bullied. Everyone needs to go to school, enjoy those years of education. Harmony, there should be fun, education, you should make good friends and have a great time. But if anyone out there is feeling a little negativity around bullying and someone is picking on them or speaking to them, they do need to raise it, and raise it again and again.
And one thing that wasn't around when you were a child in the 70s were helplines and numbers that you could call. We just want to give out some now, if perhaps what Jag is talking about resonates with you. The National Bullying Helpline is there on your screen, 0845 2255 787, or you can go to their website, nationalbullyinghelpline.co.uk. Young Minds Crisis Messenger is a good one too. It's free, 24 hours, 7 days a week support. If you're a young person, you can text YM to 85258 and they can offer you support. We'll run some other numbers on the screen as well, including the Samaritans helpline. It's always there, 116123, 24 hours a day. What was the impact on you in terms of mental health as well? Because that's something that often gets forgotten about. I think in the 70s, it's fair to say there wasn't much discussion around anyone's mental health, let alone a child's. You are obviously an adult now, you're a father now of 2 children, I know. What has the impact been on those early years of your life and the bullying that you had to endure? What impact did it have on you as you grew up?
Well, Chetan, when I woke up and I was 13 years old, and I'd been through what I'd been through, I was too busy trying to run away from the bullies and trying to hate school, you know, coming home and that. I realised when I was 13 years old, I couldn't read or write. That's how much it affected my education. And not only that, the way it affected me was that I had eating disorders. I didn't want to eat, didn't feel no confidence, lack of confidence, didn't want to go to school, I couldn't speak. And that's the amazing thing, because when I went out there in assembly with NSPCC and there's like 400 children sitting in front of me, it was like, this is my chance. And I'm going to tell each one of these children that they are capable of standing up and speaking up for themselves. But yeah, the effect it had on me, my confidence was gone, eating disorders, I wasn't sociable with people. I was sinking, big time.
You lived in Fiona. You and I have spoken about this before, that windows being smashed. And I think you were saying to me that after a while your dad just stopped boarding up the windows because it became such a common occurrence at your home with windows being smashed and that kind of violence. That's the sort of environment that you're growing up in. I think we're seeing some pictures on the screen. Well, you can talk us through what we're seeing.
Well, that's my mum and dad. My father, Jag Singh, came to this country in the late 60s to marry my mum, an arranged marriage. And when he came over, that's me and my brother in primary school. When my father came over, we had no Google. There was no Google. So my dad couldn't actually Google and find out what kind of area Canning Town was. But what he didn't realise was that area was one of the vast growing, extreme right skinheads area. Okay, so obviously it was a young family growing up in there with little kids. He was targeted because we had no neighbours, no people across the road who were black, Chinese. It was just a white-dominating area. So now and again, every weekend, we'd have our windows smashed. I mean, can you imagine it, Chetan? A young family sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden you hear a big smash through the window. And for a 9-year-old, the impact we had was, Chetan, we got so immune to it, we had our actual jobs where my brother would bring out the plastic sheet, I'll bring out the broom, and it became like just normality. But the first few times, it was really scary. As you can understand, it would be scary for any 9-year-old. And we thought many times that, you know, we were under attack. And what had we done wrong? What, because we were different, because we were Asian? But a part of me today stands back and says that, you know, we were the kind of pioneers of being in that area, the first people in the area, and we didn't give up. We stood up and we kept standing up for our beliefs.
And it's interesting to hear stories like that, because there's someone that grew up, you know, then in the 90s, and they're obviously far young people watching now. For us, it's hard to imagine that there was a time like that. I know I've heard from, you know, older cousins, for example, or other people that I've worked with about the situation being similar in parts of Leicester, for example, and other parts of London, that kind of fear of racism as a daily thing, not so much as a one-off thing, but every time you stepped outside of your door. There was one thing that you said to me where you said you looked in your mirror, I think you were sort of, I don't know, a child at the time, when you were fearful that you wouldn't see adulthood, which is an extraordinary thing, because most kids do not worry about not being alive to see their adult years, but it was a genuine concern for you.
Yes, well, I was 9 years old, I remember it very clearly. I looked at a mirror and I thought to myself, I'm not going to be able to become an adult. The life I'm leading right now, the skinheads, the school, the teachers, I don't think I'm going to make it to adulthood. But then something sparked inside me when I was 9 years old, looking in this mirror, and I said, if I can get through this, I'll be sitting one day in a TV show talking about anti-bullying and telling children out there that they deserve the right to stand up for themselves. And thanks to you and many other organisations, I'm doing that now. And out there, whoever's listening, if there is someone out there who's been bullied, please speak to someone. And that mirror chat inspired me to think, wait a minute, I need to get past this part. If I could just make it through, one day I'll stand there and sit there and speak to people and tell them that, you know, you can make it pass.
And your advice, I know, is to speak to your parents or to speak to a teacher, to speak to any other adult that you trust, for people not to suffer in silence and to at least pass on what they're going through and make sure that something can happen about it, because things will get better if you talk about it. We're going to take a short break, Jag. I mean, East London has transformed since you were there in the 70s. I mean, you were talking about being the only Asian in parts. Now we all can safely say that East London is predominantly Asian, certainly many parts of it, and things have moved on significantly there. We'll talk a little bit about gang crime and violence too. There's some really concerning figures, certainly about the murder rates in and around London this year. I know that you observed gang violence as you grew up too. We'll talk about that and more of your story. Jag's got a book coming out too. We'll talk much more about that after the break. Stay with us.